by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
As President Trump prepares for his first State of the Union address, he opens up to a British journalist. I'm in Adoba with what he has to say coming up.
Coming up, I delve into another part of the opioid epidemic, fentanyl, how dangerous it is, and what law enforcement is doing to protect themselves.
Good morning, Southwest Montana. On this Monday, our top national story this morning, the White House is expected to officially release the framework of an immigration deal today, and then tomorrow, President Trump delivers his first State of the Union address.
And the White House is calling to having a unifying speech with the theme of building a safe, strong, and proud America. Mr. Trump touches on a number of topics like the economy and tweeting with an interview with Piers Morgan. Hannah Doba has our latest.
President Trump, known for his tweet storm, says his tweets are sometimes sent by advisors, but mostly he writes them himself.
If I don't have that form of communication, I can't defend myself.
In an interview with Piers Morgan that aired Sunday, the president said he uses the social media platform at all hours to combat what he called fake news.
Sometimes in bed and perhaps sometimes at breakfast or lunch or whatever, but generally speaking, during the early morning or during the evening, I can do that.
Mr. Trump has used Twitter to criticize the Russian investigation. CBS News has confirmed that last June, the president talked about firing special counsel Robert Mueller, citing 3 areas of possible conflict of interest.
If he's going to go down this road, which I'd advise him absolutely do not do, Mr. President, let Mr. Mueller do his job.
CBS News' Major Garrett reports Mr. Trump never issued a direct order to do so in any written form, though he did say he favored this action in the presence of senior staff. Republican Lindsey Graham insists that Mueller's job is in no immediate danger.
But he did not fire Mr. Mueller. If the report is true, Mr. McGahn did the right thing, and to the president's credit, he listened.
The White House says President Trump is looking ahead.
We're doing incredibly on an economic basis, financial. During the course of a little more than a year, we've had, think of it, 84 stock market records. It's going to go higher.
And he'll tout America's progress in his upcoming State of the Union speech tomorrow night. Hannah Doba, CBS News.
Now, Mr. Trump will also press for military spending and an agreement on immigration during tomorrow's address.
More to follow on that, certainly. Meantime, Matt steps in now here at 6:34. Not a bad start to our Monday out there. Things are changing, though, as this day progresses.
Yeah, and you know, as the temperatures warm up, we'll see the winds start to pick up, and then we're going to see the other shoe drop as you head into the middle part of the week. Yin and yang of weather, right?
There you go.
Don't shoot the messenger, as I tell a lot of people. Temperatures this morning actually into the 30s, very mild. The kids need the jackets on the way out the door, certainly, but the wind will be picking up as you head into the mid to late part of the afternoon as these temperatures begin to build into the 40s. Today's going to be relatively quiet. Now, as you get into your Tuesday, good chance that we could see rain switching over to snow, cooler temperatures for sure. And we'll probably see off and on snow showers through the week. We'll talk more about the timing of all that coming up on the Billion Auto Weather Patio in about 10 minutes.
Thank you, Matt. Our top story for you now. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, deaths caused by drug overdoses are on the rise all over the country.
And that includes Montana. This morning, MTN's Morgan Davies goes on special assignment, taking a look at the rise of overdose deaths in the Treasure State and what law enforcement says is the cause of this trend.
It is approximately 50 times more powerful than heroin.
Fentanyl, a prescription drug mostly used to treat cancer patients in their final stages. It's now more than ever being used as a recreational drug.
Fentanyl's been present around here for a long time in various forms, but the unknown substances and unfortunately the accessibility to it really increased as of last summer.
So just how easy is it to get your hands on fentanyl? Well, I'm actually on a popular social media website and I found email addresses, different links to actually purchase all different types of fentanyl products.
It's very tricky to determine where the fentanyl is coming from.
In 2017, Gallatin County saw 4 deaths due to fentanyl overdoses. Also last year, a large fentanyl heroin bust was made in Bozeman, linking that batch of fentanyl-laced heroin to overdoses in Butte. And that's how most opiate users come into contact with fentanyl. It's used as a cutting agent in heroin.
The proper steps to measure and to take the quality controls that a pharmacy would take or a pharmaceutical company would take is not taking. So you may take a pill that has an unknown quantity of fentanyl.
It doesn't take much to get a lethal dose of fentanyl. As you can see here, a lethal dose of heroin is about the size of a dime. The lethal dose of fentanyl is much smaller.
It's an unknown, and that's the danger of it. A very, very small amount of some kind of transdermal opioid could end up being an overdose.
There's the danger for law enforcement officers. Fentanyl is transdermal. For medical use, it was sold as a patch that patients could wear to ease pain. But for officers out in the field, coming into contact with fentanyl could be deadly.
We've done basically a department-wide training on the exposures and what to look for and how to treat other officers or potentially treat ourselves if we do become in contact with fentanyl.
All officers are now carrying Narcan.
We want to give them an extra tool to be able to be sure that they can immediately reverse those effects.
Unfortunately for law enforcement, coming in contact with the unknown is a bigger risk. These fentanyl products are no longer just coming from the pharmaceutical companies. Fentanyl is being manufactured out of the U.S. and then being shipped back.
Chances that we will come across it have increased. The potency of it, the more varieties that it comes in, the unknowns, that's the reason we had to take a precaution.
Attorney General Tim Fox recognized the increase in lethal doses of fentanyl moving around Montana. In October of 2017, he urged law enforcement to look at overdose deaths as homicides instead of accidents. On special assignment in Bozeman, Morgan Davies, MTN News.
Now, if you or someone you know struggling with opioid addiction, visit our websites for more information on how you can find some help.
In other news, on your Monday morning, one man is dead after he was ejected from his pickup truck in a crash on Sunday morning near Circle, Montana. Montana Highway Patrol says the 22-year-old man was northwest of Circle when he failed to negotiate a curve. His truck overturned in a ditch. He was not wearing a seatbelt at the time. Montana Highway Patrol says speed and alcohol were possible factors in the crash. This is the 9th death on Montana roadways so far this year.
Elsewhere, after a swastika and KKK graffiti, anti-gay flyers were found last week in Billings. A group called Not in Our Town met to talk about the messages. Grace United Methodist Church invited Not in Our Town to a meeting called Upstanders Unite. Those invited to speak say it's important to not ignore the negative messages and to support those who have been targeted. City Council member Penny Ronning says it's important to not stay silent.
I'm a firm believer that Christ acts in love, but that love can take on different forms of messaging, and that love is not weak and love is not silent. And so if we choose to tolerate hate messaging, then we have to accept that that is going to open the doors to greater acts.
In other news, the Montana Racial Equity Project put together a Dismantling Hatred Skills and Strategies workshop this weekend in Great Falls. The workshop is meant to help everyone become more aware of what others may see as offensive. There were a series of scenarios on the screen and that people in the workshop were asked to base their opinions on and how they would react to those situations. People from all walks of life that identified themselves with many backgrounds, cultural groups, and racial identities showed up. Participants in the workshop also paired off in groups to discuss worldwide racial issues. Participant Jessica Lauer says she walked away with more knowledge about equality issues around the world.
Gaining the tools to actually, when we see those things happening, that we interject and that we acknowledge that it exists, because these are real issues that face a lot of people, maybe not in our own communities, but they exist.
To learn a little bit more about the event or the Montana Racial Equity Project, you can head on over to mtrep.org.
Interesting stuff there. Meantime, 6:41, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, our weekly Under the Big Sky report.
That's right, a little Jason Wickens and Doc Wiley live from the Divide today. Good stuff. But first, a little sneak peek on your headlines coming up at 7 right here on CBS This Morning.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS This Morning, the most memorable moments from the Grammy Awards, including Hillary Clinton's surprise appearance. ET's Kevin Frazier was on the red carpet with how politics took center stage. And a report to the president says the Peace Corps may be failing to protect its volunteers from sexual assault. We follow up with a story we first reported in 2015. See you at 7.